I warn you, for your own sake, take an alternate route.
Welcome aboard the Strange Express. My name is Dr. Scherzo Stantio. Perhaps you've experienced at some point in time an odd encounter with a person that cemented itself on your memory due to the very oddness of the event. At the time of the encounter, you didn't understand what was happening and why. Perhaps the person seemed to know you, but you didn't have any idea who they were. You may have puzzled over it for a long time and never have grasped the why and the wherefore. Today's story is about a man that had just such an experience. He will share his story with you in just a moment, so please, find a comfortable seat, as I believe that I just heard the engineer give the signal that we're about to be on our way. My story occurred back in the late 1980s, so it was a very long time ago. I'd been working at my job for about 5 years and had accumulated quite a bit of leave time, but it seems I was never able to take it as something would always come up that prevented me from being able to go. For example, I had originally been scheduled to leave in July, but again, I'd been asked to postpone my vacation until August due to an urgent matter coming up. Then I was supposed to take the last week of August off, but I was still at work on Tuesday of that week. But it appeared I might be able to wrap things up by Wednesday and actually leave for vacation on Thursday. It was already dark by the time I left the office on Tuesday, but fortunately the afternoon rush hour traffic had ended, and the drive back to my apartment was less intense. My goal was to wrap up everything on Wednesday, making sure that all my projects had been put to bed, or at least brought to a point that I could delegate them to someone else to wrap up, and then leave for vacation directly from the office on Wednesday evening. I slept well that night, with the anticipation of getting some much-needed rest and relaxation on my vacation. What's more, I slept in the next day, as my vacation technically had already begun. This was a decision that I later regretted, because I'd hoped to get out of the office by noon, but that didn't happen. As it turned out, I was finally able to finish up around 8:30 that evening. I knew it was too late to start out on my vacation that evening, even though I'd already loaded my luggage and camping gear into my car. I checked around the office and confirmed that there was no one else there. I turned off the lights and set the alarm system and went out the front door, locking it behind me. I surveyed the parking lot and saved my car. The lot was completely empty. I started to walk across the empty lot when I heard a voice calling my name. I looked around, but I didn't see who was calling out to me. Very clearly, I heard the voice again calling my name. The voice seemed familiar, but I just couldn't place where I'd heard it before. Suddenly, from out of the darkness, a man approached me. I have to admit I was very much in fear for my life at that moment. I had just checked the parking lot moments before and seen no one, yet this man just seemed to appear out of nowhere, and I found his sudden appearance rather frightening. He seemed to sense my apprehension and told me not to be afraid, that he meant me no harm. The man was dressed in a somewhat odd fashion. I noticed immediately that he was wearing a wide-brimmed floppy hat that was clearly pulled down over his face, obscuring everything but his mouth and his chin. He wore a black trench coat that reminded me of something worn by a detective from an old 1940s detective movie. It struck me that it was pretty warm to be wearing such a heavy coat, but it looked very stylish. Complementing the black trench coat were matching black gloves. Again, it seemed rather warm for the gloves. Between the gloves and the obscured face, I still had my doubts about his intentions. I noticed a man walked with the assistance of a cane. I leaned over and acted as though I was brushing off some lint or dust from the knee of my trousers to try to get a better look at his face without being obvious. Even though it was nighttime, the man was wearing sunglasses. The flesh on his chin and neck was mottled and almost shiny. He looked ancient. I have to say that his appearance was almost alien in nature. Again, as though he knew what I was thinking, he assured me that he was completely human. I then asked him if he is able to read my mind. He told me that he's not able to read my mind, at least not in the sense that I understood it. I wanted to ask him what sense he did mean it, but I didn't get the chance. He told me that he was simply a messenger and that his time was limited. He said that he'd come to ask me to delay my trip for a few more hours, waiting until after 10 a.m. to leave, or barring that, to take an alternate route to the interstate and avoid my planned route using the parkway. Mine was a simple question. Why? The man was elusive on this point and merely told me that modifying my plans as he was requesting might save my life. I asked him how did he know this. Was he a time traveler? Did he have ESP? Did he read tea leaves too? Maybe we should go inside and have a cup. The man seemed to get annoyed at this point and muttered something sarcastically about people saying that he was stubborn. The man then told me he was a Valadusian Dirg. He must have thought he was being funny, but I was familiar with that particular story about Robert Sheckley. Briefly, it is a story of a man that is visited by a disembodied voice, the Valadusian Dirg. And the Dirg warns the man of impending dangers. The problem is that the man starts to notice that each day the Dirg brings more and more warnings, and his lifestyle gets severely cramped as he attempts to avoid all the potential dangers. It's a good story. Check it out if you get a chance. It's called Protection. Anyway, without a trace of a smile, I replied to the man that as a Dirg, he must be familiar with Sheckley's constant. Protection begets the need of additional protection, and avoidance of one danger is certain to lead to another. The man immediately replied that he only came to offer one warning, and that I should not anticipate any additional warnings. So my need for more protection would be nominal, as his warning would present no more danger to me than someone warning me to get new tires for my car, due to the old ones looking worn. I then asked him about the other creatures from his realm. Won't accepting your warning draw their attention? Don't I risk possible attack from them? The man sighed and confessed that he actually was not a Dirg, but I should heed his request regardless. This brought me back to my original question. Why? I told him to suppose that I took another route. What would that mean to him? He said that he was merely a messenger. His only mission was to give me the message and hopefully convince me to alter my plans as requested. I contemplated that it wouldn't be difficult to alter my plans a bit. After all, there was so much construction work going on in that area. Seems there was always a slowdown close to State Road 87, as it had been under construction for a couple of months. So taking an alternate route to the parkway might mean additional distance, but it might actually be faster. I really only took the road out of habit. I then said to the man that I suppose I could take an alternate route, but he was gone. I looked around, but he had completely vanished. After I was satisfied that he was indeed gone, I headed to my car. All the way home, I tried to convince myself that I just hallucinated the whole encounter, but I knew that wasn't so. There was really nothing scary about it, except the way that the man seemed to just appear out of nowhere and also seemed to vanish without a trace. I also racked my brain trying to remember where I'd heard his voice before, but came up empty. As it turned out, it was a good thing that I did take a different route the next day. The place where all the construction was going on, the overpass for State Road 87, collapsed and fell on the parkway. Tons of concrete and steel had fallen from the overpass, and astoundingly, while there are a few minor injuries, fortunately there were no fatalities, as there were no vehicles directly under the overpass when it fell. I thought to myself that had I been there, I could very well have been directly under the overpass and been injured or possibly killed. To this day, I still wonder who that man was who warned me to avoid that route and how he knew. If nothing else, I'd like the opportunity to thank the man. I checked into the cause of the collapse, and it had been determined to have been caused by some of the temporary construction not being sufficient to withstand the stresses that were being exerted on it. Simply put, human error. Well, short as it was, I hope you enjoyed our little trip today on the Strange Express. Before you disembark, though, I just want to let you know of some of the upcoming stories that we are working on. Story names may change prior to publication, and they may not be published in the order that I give. First, we have a little piece of fright fluff that we are currently calling Wee Monster. Also, a story of an unflappable free spirit from the 70s, which we are currently calling The Hippie Chronicles. It's based on a couple of old jokes about a hippie who always managed to solve problems with a cool head. Then we have a modern story, but it's going to be written in the style of an epic poem. Possible names include The Ill I Am, or possibly The Odd You See. We also have another ghost story, but no real name yet, and a time travel story, currently named Clock-a-Bye Baby. All of these are in the works, and I hope to see you on board for the fun. So until next time, happy rails to you. See you next time.